Okay, so let's see. I think we're ready to go ahead and copy our takeoff clearance. So let me go ahead and contact clearance delivery. Be ready with a pen and paper.
Delivery Delta 744, ready for clearance to New York Kennedy Airport with Lima.
Delta 744, cleared to the New York Kennedy Airport as filed. Climb and maintain 5,000. Expect flight level 390 within 10 minutes after departure. Squawk 5135. Departure frequency 128.7.
Cleared to the New York Kennedy Airport as filed. Climb and maintain 5,000. Expect flight level 390. Squawk 5135. Departure 128.7. Delta 744.
Delta 744, read back correct.
Okay, the important information there, well, for one thing, you want to keep a pen and paper close by when copying a clearance delivery. That goes for the real world too. Is climb and maintain 5,000. We've dialed that. I've just plugged that into our FCP right here in the altitude window. That is our initial clearance altitude, what we climb to after takeoff. The next thing is he told us to squawk 5135, and I realized I forgot to take you around the bottom pedestal. It's pretty obvious. You got your radios here, which you don't have to mess with much, weather radar, which is inoperable, and your transponder. That's important. What you want to do is 5135, like they've told you, and then you want to turn it mode to RA/TA, and it'll take care of itself from there. Over here, these are your trim wheels. You'll probably never have to mess with those. Data printer, which doesn't work here, obviously. You know, it's more... Oh, you also have your display, but your primary flight display controls right here. But there is an easier way to do that, and I'll show you later. So we've got our clearance. Our squawk code is dialed in. We're going to go ahead and request push and start.
Ground Delta 744 at 18. Romeo, ready to push.
Delta 744, cleared to push. Start at your discretion. Contact ground when you're ready. On 121.7.
Ground on 121.7. Delta 744.
Now, I know there's no airport in front of me. Like, you'll have to forgive my scenery settings. I turn them way down for the sake of frame rates. But we're not going to skip the pushback just because we can. I'm not that lazy. Pushback is pretty easy. First, FS action shortcuts. Pushback. You cannot push back less than 25 feet. So we're going to dial in 25, and then we'll say we'll turn the nose right 60 degrees ought to be enough. And start.
And, ground cockpit. Go ahead, Captain.
He's going to want us to set the parking brake.
Cleared to push and start at your discretion. Roger that, ready for push. Power and air clear, doors closed. We are ready for pushback. Release parking brake, please.
Okay.
Okay, parking brake is off. Cleared to push.
Now we're getting ready to go through engine start. Remember, make sure the EPU is running for this and you have your bleed air turned on. First thing we're going to do is select an engine starter up here on the overhead panel. Engine ignition, we'll just use A today. So you'll hear the pack shut off here. See how it got quiet? Now, first step, the start order is 312. So we're going to go over here and right click on this big red button underneath the throttles. That's number 3. And then we are going to watch this number right here. This is your N2, and wait until it climbs to the blue mark, which is 15%. 14. Once it hits 15, you left click the fuel switch.
Push is complete. Set parking brake, please. Alright, brakes are set and pressure is normal. Okay, sir. Tow bar is off. Pin is out. Watch the pin on the right. Alright, guys. Thanks. You're cleared to disconnect. We will be watching for the pin and the release from guidance on the right side of the airplane, and we'll see you guys next time through. Roger that. Have a good flight.
Okay, and you wait for the engine to stabilize before you go ahead and move on to the next one. Though, you know, I do kind of get lazy and start them earlier. sometimes. I'll go ahead and start number 2. Remember, 3, 1, 2 is the proper order. And the reason you don't turn the fuel switch on until you get 15% M2 is to prevent a hot start. You know, it's how you do it in the real world. You could start it with the fuel switch on, but it's not really the right way to do it. And so now we don't have to, so now our engines are spooling up. You can see our numbers there. Let's see, next step. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I totally forgot that I did not turn on our aux pumps, and I should have done that. Our auxiliary hydraulic pumps, that's easy to forget. Good thing it's not the real world. But yeah, I should have turned on our auxiliary hydraulic pumps before we started pushback. Let's see, and I should have turned the beacon on too. Wow, I'm not doing so hot today. Okay, I guess the seatbelt light should be on, and we're going to go ahead and turn on the nose taxi light. So now we're going to contact ground. We're ready to taxi.
Ground Delta 744 is with you at 18. Romeo, ready.
Also going to turn off the APU.
Delta 744, ground, taxi to runway 36, right, and hold short.
Taxi to runway 36, right, and hold short. Delta 744.
Okay, I happen to fly out of this airport a lot, so I know my way around pretty well. But so I'm going to try and talk you through taxi out procedures and taxi out at the same time, so forgive me if I don't do a fantastic job. Let's see, basic taxiing rules. For one, never go above 20 miles an hour, and you don't want to do a 90-degree turn any faster than about 10 miles an hour. And you can see this right here on the left where it says 11 taxi. And so those are just standard rules. As far as making these 90-degree turns, and, you know, I'm just going to go outside to make sure I am where I think I am. And yes, I am. Okay. Now, as far as making these turns, you can cheat and use an outside view, and that makes things a lot easier. But really, the way to do it is to, well, here, I'll show you. We're going to make this turn here to the left. What you do is you got to remember that the cockpit is at the very front tip of the airplane, and that the nose wheel is pretty far behind you. So it's, instead of looking forward to make this turn, you want to look off to the left. Slow down a bit and wait until it's right about, because if you drive it like a car, you're going to cut the inside edge. And now we're going to start making our turn. And that should, well, I overshot that one a little more than I would have liked to, but you can see not that much. It's not nearly as scary, you know, because if you look at the cockpit, it looks like we are almost running off the taxiway, when in reality, we're right where we need to be. So it takes a lot of practice. So taxiing is kind of one of the hardest parts of being a pilot. So it just takes some practice. And I apologize for my frame rates. My computer kind of sucks sometimes. And also I'm running Fraps in my audio capture software, and it gets a little tricky. Now, as far as taxi out, we've already got our autopilot set up, but you can see down here it says slats. We need to extend the flaps to 22 degrees. You do that on taxi out, not while you're sitting at the front of the runway. We also need to right-click the spoiler lever right here. That sets the auto spoilers in case we have to go around, or in case we have to abort the takeoff. And also, there's this switch right here, which is our auto brakes, and you need to left-click that to set it to takeoff. That way, you have, like I said, if you have to go around, you all you have to do is pull back on the throttle, lower the throttle to idle, and the auto brakes will engage, and the spoilers will automatically deploy. Now,